what we are going to look at is mental distractions. When we are living our life, every day we go through lots of thoughts coming into our consciousness. We will look at the effect. Their effect on our life is profound. And we dismiss them as natural. And we take them for granted that we got to live with them. And actually, we don't have to live with them. And living with them, taking them for granted as natural and nothing we can do about it, that kind of attitude lands us in the soup that we are in right now. We cannot learn. We got zillions of health problems, both mental as well as physical. And our behavior has a lot to be desired. So the result of the mental distractions that we have to learn to do something about it. And not that we never knew about it, but we have forgotten. The universe discovered what to do about mental distractions a long time ago, but those things are now forgotten. And one of the reasons why they're forgotten is our modern science. Modernity is really defined as the denial of everything that is not perceptible by our physical organs of cognition. We deny everything that is subtle. Our eyes cannot see, our ears cannot hear, nose cannot smell, and things like that. And that is the beginning of modern life. Science began with that. Science has now grown to go beyond it. With Einstein's equivalence of mass and energy, science has gone beyond it, but our mind is still stuck in the earlier beginning of science, that we still do not want to think about things that we cannot see. And we can actually not think about, we deny those things that we cannot see with our physical organs of cognition. Now, it doesn't matter whichever way we look at it. Mental distractions are there. We know that they are. We cannot deny them. But the denial of what is not sense perceptible leads you to accept them as natural. We started to accept these mental distractions as natural, and we cannot do about it. We have to live with them. That kind of attitude, that is the result of the denial of whatever is not sense perceptible. Biologically, we cannot see our genes. Without them, we won't be here. Without the genes, the rest of the world is matter. Oh, how is life different from matter? Because of our genes, we are different from matter. And what is it about genes that makes them different? Genes have got tons of memory, and so much memory that we cannot imagine. And our genes make us unique. There is no other Shiv Talwar in the world, and nobody that is exactly the same, and nobody that's exactly the same as Fred Lawler in the whole universe, because our genes make us individual. And the information that is written in the genes, that information decides how my nose is going to be, how my eyes are going to be, how my ears are going to be, and what kind of thoughts are going to pop up in my mind uninvited, what kind of mental distractions that I'm going to have is decided by the information in the genes. And we inherit the genes from our parents, they inherited from their parents, and they inherited from their parents. And so far, we go down 4 billion years of the beginning of life on the planet. Our genes have been accumulating information over 4 billion years, you can say. That's what we have. And that is where we get the instincts of the mind, the tendencies of our mind, the things that we do that we never learned. All the unlearned tendencies of our minds are because of our genes. We like different things, we hear differently. 10 people can be looking at the same thing, have 10 different opinions. All that is decided by our genes. And what happens with the mental distractions, the profoundness of their effect can be seen by observing our own behavior. If I'm sitting and trying to focus on something, these distractions prevent me from focusing on whatever I want to do. If I'm trying to learn, they prevent me from learning. So I cannot go to a classroom and pay attention to the teacher because of them. So I have to come home and review whatever I heard, not once, but many times over, before I start to understand a part of what I heard. Okay, all because of the distractions of my mind. And I'm sitting trying to read a book. Some thought comes to mind, which is unpleasant. So I start getting anxious. What if that thing becomes a reality? I start to worry. And if something comes to mind which is pleasant, but Guinness comes to mind. So what do I want to do? I want to get off my chair, reach into the fridge and get a bottle of Guinness. And many times I do that without thinking. I like coffee. I'm driving around the town, I smell coffee. And I see a sign of Tim Hortons 3 miles away, and my car turns in that direction and automatically goes there. So these distractions, they involve us in them. So we are running around without any conscious decision on our part. I go to Tim Hortons not because I wanted to go there, because a thought of the smell lurking in the air made me do it. The thought of Guinness made me get out of my chair and reach into the fridge. So that running around, it tires the body, it tires the mind. And so we start getting mental disorders, physical disorders, mental disorders. And if too many unpleasant thoughts come to my mind, I am unhappy, I'm worried, I'm afraid. Okay. They make us unhappy, they make us unhealthy, they make us incapable of learning anything profound. They put my life on autopilot. I end up doing things that without any volition on my part, things are happening without any will. I go and commit a murder and say I could not control my emotions. I start coming to know what I did after having done it. Those are the kind of things that happen because of what we take as granted. Now, if somebody tells me I should do this and not that, because doing this, I can stay happy and I can stay healthy and I can do this and I can do that, I still cannot do whatever is good for me because the mental distractions that are pleasant and unpleasant make me do whatever I end up doing. So knowing what is good for me, I still cannot do it because of the involvement that mental distractions can cause. So those are the various things that come to my mind. And what we're going to look at is learning, education. What kind of education we need to have so that we learn to live in harmony with each other. That is what I have been researching all my life. And having researched that all my life, I come to discover what is right beneath my nose. Mental distractions, they're there in my mind all the time. But I did not realize how profound they can be and how they can prevent us from doing what is good for us, doing what makes us happy, doing what makes us live in harmony with each other rather than hatred of each other. They underlie racial bigotry, they underlie environmental devastation that we make. It's all life on autopilot driven by mental distractions. And if we learn how to deal with them, how to transcend them, how to stop them from happening, we can learn to be happy, we can learn to be physically healthy, mentally healthy, behave in harmony with the others. All those good things will start to happen by themselves once we learn how to reduce the mental distractions or eliminate them totally, at least for a few minutes a day, if not all the time, because we cannot really control them all the time. They are part of our genes. They are sourced from the genes. As long as we are alive, our genes are going to be working. But we can get respite from them for brief moments here and there. And that respite in that brief moments lies our liberation. So I think that is the key idea that I want to talk about. And maybe we can learn from each other. Maybe we can discuss. And if we turn our cameras on and let's hear from you, your thoughts on it.
Shiv, there's a couple of things in the chat line. One from Kurt, and specifically says, I'm an identical twin. Are the genes the same? If so, somehow my brother got colon cancer and I did not.
Can you go close to the speaker? I could
Sure.
not.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you better.
Okay. This is from Kurt. I'm an identical twin. Are the genes the same? If so, somehow my brother got colon cancer and I did not. He's a Trumper, in other words, Trump, and I'm a Bernieite. I don't know if we're bringing in the political side of this, but anyway, the question really is, are the genes the same between identical twins?
Not.
The point wasn't the political either. It was just a point that, there's that extreme difference. Because I'm apolitical because we are here to create peace. But go ahead, Shiv, please. I'd love to hear your answer.
Actually speaking, my genes and genes of other animals, the difference is only 0.0 some percent. So we are that connected with the rest of the life on the planet. Our genes are not far apart from each other. But a little bit of difference at the genetic level can make a big difference at the practical level. The genes, my genes, the genes of the Africans, the genes of the other Asians or Europeans are not a hell of a lot different from each other. Okay. And all that one nucleotide misplaced can cause havoc with a life. And that nucleotide placed properly in the right place can make all that difference between life and death.
Shiv, you've said before that the DNA that we've got, going back to Kurt's question, that our DNA, in actual fact, in our genes, goes right back to the Big Bang, if you like.
Yeah.
And that's had an influence that's in our unconscious and our subconscious, but specifically unconscious, and those things that specifically affect our behavior that we don't even know about. So to answer Kurt's question, every single one of us I would assume, have all kinds of different genes, and they're all incredible different influences, notwithstanding the fact that Kurt's got a identical twin. Their makeups going way back have been influenced by so many things that at the end of the day, where we are, I guess part of it is, how do you basically unwrap that, what we call, that's in the unconscious in those genes? Anyhow.
Yeah, and then there's another process in genes that's called epigenetics. Um, the genes may be the same. My genes when I was 10 years old or when I was conceived and when I'm now, they're not different. They're essentially the sequence of the genes is the same. But the genes learn from experience and they turn themselves on and off to different extents to change the way they behave. They express themselves differently at different times. I today have certain expression of genes. Tomorrow, with my experience from today to tomorrow, the expression of my genes would be slightly different. And this explains how two cherries on the same branch of the same tree, 2 inches apart from each other, they taste different, they may look different because the genes express themselves differently. One cherry may get slightly more sunshine than the other. So that will make a difference on the way the genes of particular cherries express differently. This is biology, and it's very profound. Learning about genes and genetic expression is a complicated subject, but that is what causes us to do things that we do. And the genes going back to 4 billion years to the first ever bacteria, single-celled bacteria that lived on the planet, that is being talked about in the Bible. In the Bible, the 3 faculties of the mind, the sensory faculty, our ability to perceive, for example, is the word used is creaturely soul or serpent. There are two terminologies. Serpent that works stealthily without our knowing. Creaturely soul is another thing that works. Creatures are totally controlled by nature. They have no awareness and no will. And that is what the Bible calls creaturely soul or the serpent. And the next comes animal soul. Okay. And then comes the human soul. And then the Bible says the human soul has got dominion over the creaturely soul and the animal soul. We can, using our human soul is the conscious part of us. The subconscious is animal, the unconscious is creaturely. Our consciousness has the ability to exercise dominion over the other two. And how do we exercise that dominion is probably what we are talking about today. Otherwise, the creaturely soul and the animal soul run our lives. And they run our lives as if we are running on autopilot. And it is the human soul that can take charge of a life, so that we run our life with our own volition, not as we are driven by our instincts.
So Shiv, in terms of education, your thoughts specifically, how do we come out of this?
Okay, education, the prevalent education does not address this issue at all. They keep on teaching, and we think that once we've taught it, people have learned it. And it doesn't work. We know that it doesn't work. And what we are talking about, this book that in which I have tried to prove that that doesn't work, and how we can take charge of our life, how we can weaken the effect of the natural distractions or eliminate them. There are processes, there are exercises that we have developed as human beings. We have developed those exercises all over the world. We have developed those exercises that make us contemplative. Now, when we use the word contemplative, at once the mind may go to God, because the word contemplation has been used in connection with the knowledge of God. So what really means is, by eliminating distractions, you can even learn the reality of God. Not that it is limited only to God. You can learn anything you want to learn. You can also learn what is real about God and what is unreal. That is total belief. And so one of the contemplative practices has been Rumi's practice of eating lightly and breathing deeply. If you eat lightly and breathe deeply, again, there is biology. I can talk about the biology of this whole thing. You lead a much more energetic life than you lead otherwise. And you lead a much more focused life than you lead otherwise. Your learning would be much penetrated, profound things you can learn. And your health would be better, mentally as well as physically, and your behavior would be better. And that is what contemplative exercises are for. And one of the basic contemplative exercise is breathing. How you breathe. Take charge of your breath. Your breath is running unconsciously 24/7. We have to breathe. Without that happening, we cannot survive even for a minute. And if we start breathing deeply, we eliminate distractions of our mind, or we can weaken them, or we can reduce them. The more we breathe deeply, the better for us. There are questions. I think Sadhana Prasad had some questions, and then Kurt Kruger. Sadhana had her hand up too some time ago. Sadhana, if you're there.
I am here, Uncle. I was just going to talk about epigenetics, but you already did that. Thank you.
Okay, all the best. Thanks. Kurt?
Yes, this is such a wonderful topic of education, and this bringing mental training into school is the most valuable, because teachers, I can ask everybody here, most of you, if not all of you, have at least a graduate degree, not just a bachelor's degree. So we're all highly educated, but we've never, ever, as far as I know, and I'm only asking the question right now to you, have you ever been taught how to concentrate in school, how to practice on how to concentrate? I've never had somebody say, yeah, not in school. You might learn it in a yoga class or some other kind of classes, but we don't teach it in school. In 1975, I got to bring it into the worst school in the country. And it really changed things. And it can be incredible magic. The education system can transform the world when we get to educate. But we have the colonial influence, so to speak, of indoctrination. They're pontificating to us. They know the truth. They're giving it to us and we give it back. That's the kind of education we have. We're not usually doing any contemplating a serious issue. Look at what our society does. We leave climate issues and we worry about something else, or we're dealing with something else. So yes, thank you so much for bringing this incredible topic up.
Thank you, Kurt. You know, there isn't a problem that I have not looked at. Problem of world peace, problem of unity, problem of environmental degradation, and all of those problems, problem of happiness, problem of stress, problem of criminality, problem of addiction. Substance addiction kills 30, 40,000 people, maybe more, in the United States every year. People picking up guns and shooting. Every other day we hear about it. All of these problems would be addressed with something as simple as sitting down to breathe deep for a few minutes a day. As simple as that. And I have been researching that for a number of years, and I understand the physiology of it. I understand how our brains work, how neurophysiologically you can show that's not something imaginary. It is something that is science. And in scientific terms, let me tell you, it is connected with our survival. Breath is connected with our survival. Obviously, we all know that. Without that, we cannot survive. And lungs are in the chest cavity. Along the spine are many organs that keep us in survival. Heart is along the spine. Then comes the abdomen, the reproductive system, all aligned, the brain, all aligned along the spine. And that core body along the spine makes us survive. And the processes of the core body, organs, like breathing and the pulsations of the heart and the flow of the blood in our veins that happen automatically when we are asleep, or awake. They have to happen, otherwise we would be dead in no time. So nature is very wise. So they have made all these essential processes unconscious. They happen automatically. Without them happening automatically, we will not be able to sleep. Without them happening automatically, what is deep sleep? We will never wake up if we go to deep sleep. So automation is essential for survival, but taking charge of it is essential for the quality of that survival. Okay.
Shiv.
Yeah.
May I make a suggestion? Maybe we just go around the horn to see, first of all, comments from individuals, and more importantly, if there's anything that they've seen in an educational process that would basically, I know Kurt, we'll come back to you, Kurt, and you've got lots of comments here, but I'm thinking we've got people from around the world here. It's wonderful. But just love to give you kind of thoughts. You don't put you on the spot. If you've got no thoughts, no comment, that's fine. But just any thoughts of what you've heard so far. And also, is there anything in your experience that you've seen that is excellent in education about opening up the heart, that's dealing with, and you said it, Kurt, earlier, our educational system is regurgitation, not really thought. That said and done is, let's go to England, to Devon. He's having a lovely day over there. Malcolm, he's probably got a cup of tea going. Malcolm, some thoughts, first of all, and anything that you've seen, maybe just a little bit of it, just very quickly about you, then some thoughts you've got so far, and then more importantly, is there anything that you've seen that would add to this? Malcolm?
Thank you. Something just referring to something that Kurt said. In England, we've got mindfulness is taught in schools, not everywhere, but I've got a friend who teaches mindfulness to young children. And it has a massive impact on the quality of their children's lives in schools, and it is proliferating. It is, it's making a difference. And I actually helped run a Steiner school. I don't know whether anybody knows about Rudolf Steiner.
Oh, yeah.
Steiner. And so, I watched how children learn. And
sorry, Malcolm, what's Steiner school?
Sorry?
What is Steiner school? Steiner school.
Rudolf Steiner. Waldorf education.
Yeah. Oh, Waldorf. Yeah, go ahead. Anyway, maybe just a little bit, if you would, Malcolm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was part of the Waldorf education in Hereford. So we ran the Hereford Waldorf School, and that taught me a lot about the way children learn and the differences between a state education and a private education. And I ended up disagreeing really with the way it was done for various reasons I won't go into. But it gave the children one thing that was remarkable, and that was a sense of self-confidence. Their self-confidence was disarming, to say the least, sometimes. Whether it educated them properly, I don't think it did, because I don't think it addressed deeper issues. You didn't teach children in the right way from an educational point of view in terms of academia, but from a self-worth. A lot of the children were absolutely wonderful children when they came out the other end of the system. So that was a long time ago. I'm not involved in that anymore. But I'm listening to what Shiv was saying with tremendous interest because of my studies. And I'm trying, what I'm hearing is I'm trying to relate it back to where I've studied. And Shiv and I have the same mentor. So at the moment, I'm in a sifting process. And I'll leave it there. I'm just listening and just thinking, how would I understand this?
Thank you, Malcolm. Shiv, any
Thank-
comment? Shiv? Shiv,
Yep.
any comment?
Um,
We talked about Waldorf. We talked about mindfulness in
so
schools.
I think mindfulness is good. That is the way, but the way it should be taught, the way the Buddha taught, not the way the modern psychologists teach.
Meaning?
Buddha's mindfulness method is 16 exercises of breathing. It's written in his book called Anapanasati Sutta. And simple exercises of how to be conscious of your breath. Whereas the modern psychologists make it intellectual.
Hmm.
You tell me, think before you act. You think it is going to work? The problem is the life on autopilot, where there is no thinking before acting. Okay, we want to get out of the autopilot, and we cannot get out of the autopilot by using the autopilot. So you become mindful by using your physiology strategically. Okay, the autopilot, the mindfulness that Carl Jung talks about. Carl Jung talks about doing the unconscious consciously. Do the unconscious consciously if you want to be in charge of your own life. Otherwise, it'll be all destiny. Wherever your autopilot takes you, that is destiny. Wherever you take it is different. And how can we do the unconscious consciously? There are unconscious things that we are doing all the time. My blood is flowing through the veins unconsciously. Heart is pulsing unconsciously. That's happening all the time. One thing that I can do is I can breathe consciously. That is the only thing that I can intervene with my own consciousness. That happens with our body. And to tell my mind to think before it does anything, it does not work. We've been trying to teach 10 commandments for 2,000 years. Does not work. Unless you have a balance of the way your sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system works. We all have a nervous system, and the nervous system that runs the core body organs, okay, right? The core body organs. That is called the autonomic nervous system. And that has got two branches. One is called sympathetic, and the other one is called parasympathetic. And there is activity, electrochemical activity running through the parasympathetic that reduces the frequency of the autonomic processes. My heart is pulsing with a certain frequency. If my body wants to reduce that frequency, parasympathetic nervous system takes the signal to it, to the heart, and the sympathetic signaling is higher when we want to increase the frequency. So it's the way our body is designed. Everybody is designed, our nervous system is designed to be like that. When we breathe slowly, we are increasing the activity of the parasympathetic, reducing the activity of the sympathetic. So our heart functioning will be slowed down, blood pressure will slow down, the speed of blood flowing through our veins will slow down. Okay, and that also will slow down the frequency of mental oscillations or distractions.
Thanks, Shiv. I'm going to move on just to a couple of people that haven't spoken yet, given some thoughts.
Please do that. Thank you.
First of all, a New York Yankees fan, Josephine. How are you? If you unmute.
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Very good morning.
So I'm coming to you guys.
Sorry,
New York,
say again?
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I'm in Brooklyn.
New York. You're down New York.
I'm here. I'm in Brooklyn. So I'm here from the Peace Academy. Some of you may or may not know Donald Pett, who led the Peace Academy, who just recently passed away. So I took over for Don. And Kate Roberts invited me today and sent the link. So I'm happy to be here, first time joiner and just listening in. I found this very stimulating and interesting. It did slow down my breathing. A lot of what we talk about on our calls has to do with having difficult conversations. We're focused now on having difficult conversations in uncomfortable times with people who maybe, sit on the Bernie camp or sit in the Trump camp. And how do we have those conversations? How do we change the way we think about the world, ourselves, and interactions to help us do that? I love the idea of, what Shiv said about doing the unconscious consciously. And I think that's, I'm going to take some of these learnings today and incorporate it in our next meeting and see how it resonates with the team. I do think it's important that we think and breathe before we speak, especially when we are interacting with someone who is very contrary to our core beliefs. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Josephine.
I want to
Shiv?
share something with Josephine.
Yep.
Josephine, our friend, his name was Kuruvula Zachariah. And
Oh, yes.
remember Kuruvula?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was just wonderful. Wonderful person.
He introduced this in our board meetings. First 10 minutes of board meetings, we listen to each other and also breathe together, deep breathe together for maybe 10 minutes, and then maybe spend 2 minutes listening to each other. And all the meetings that started that way, we could accomplish 3 hours of agenda in 1 hour.
Nice.
Because people's compulsion to say things is also reduced. It's the ego thing, Look, I got something valuable to tell you. You better listen. I'm going to speak for the next half hour. That tendency reduces.
Thanks,
So
Shiv.
we were able to get through our agenda.
Can I ask Josephine, what's Peace Academy?
So I'm going to put the website in there. We're focused on, I don't know if he has ever come and talk with you guys. Peace Academy, Peace Academy. Just go to no dot anything. Just go and take a look at our website.
Okay, will do.
We're focused, yeah, and I can 2 minutes. We're focused on change a new way of thinking. Relying on Einstein's view that we need to move away from being an animal, having this animal brain, to a more higher level of thinking and consciousness. And practicing, we have several practices that we do to go through to help us have these difficult conversations and kind of reduce the temperature, if you will, in a lot of interactions.
Thanks, Josephine. Ingrid, I see MLK, beloved community, and it's a canoe. Is that indigenous? You're muted, by the way. You got, there you go. Good morning.
Good morning, Fred. Yes, I'm one of the co-producers of the event, kind of the behind the scenes person, and I'm coming between some of the different rooms to just put some links in the chats for you guys, make sure that the live stream is working and share it to a couple of different of the co-hosts and pages and things. This particular event is also a common theme that has happened in some of the other convergence rooms about how do we increase our awareness and consciousness within education. They've had, there's been, I think, 3 other events this time, and I put the link to one that was, because you guys were specifically talking, somebody mentioned Waldorf and Montessori, and there was a dialogue in regards to, there were 2 different events that actually went back to back. It was like whole child development or something. I don't remember the exact title off the top of my head, but I found the feed of that and threw it into this chat. So when you guys are done with the meeting, feel free to save the chat for additional offerings that are at the MLK Convergence, also in the videos feed on the Compassion Games page. I think Dr. Talwar has given us some amazing strategies of looking at the scientific thing to be bringing it into action today or yesterday at the birthday celebration with Antoinette and Pato. They talked about activism and how to take, you know, you have to have information to bring to your legislators to enact change. Then you have to go and show up and continuously be there and continue to advocate for the dream of like, what is it that you want? What's your Northern Star? What is the thing that is you're wanting to develop? And so this theme of increasing consciousness, actually, one of the persons that was a activist that was talking about how to be an effective activist effectively changed the social emotional learning agenda for the schools in Washington state by following these practices of advocacy that she detailed in the birthday celebration about how that MLK didn't just talk about peace, he demonstrated, he activated, he talked about that things will never change if we don't actually get the laws changed and make it a shift in the systems, not just in the discussions. So basically I'm in the background here trying to weave some of these things together. I invite everyone to come to the Reflections and Open Space event that's happening today at 4, where we invite all the presenters to come together and maybe give a little snippet about what they've talked about, but also look for ways that we can, as individuals that have similar interests and similar Northern Stars of like, this is a thing that I'm really passionate about and I want to change this. How can we go from being siloed of doing our individual things to moving into collaborative efforts where people that are having like interests and like areas that they want to propel forward are going to be having opportunities to gather and collaborate in the open space. And that's where we are hoping that these convergences are going to be not just inspirational, not just motivational, but actionable. And how do we take those steps together? We actually have to build the relationships. We've got all the resources. We have the ideas, we have the things.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Ingrid, behind you, you've got MLK, beloved community, and a canoe. Explain that.
So
what's
the
MLK?
Martin Luther King beloved
gotcha.
community convergence is what
Beautiful.
is the main event that's happening that we are broadcasting from. I think, is this your direct Zoom room? Whose Zoom room?
It's, my page is Spiritual Heritage Education Network.
Okay.
Yes. So, but as a cooperative effort, convergences are individuals and groups of people who are interested in creating a better world together. And so the convergence event, that's the MLK Building Beloved Community, is this weekend from the 13th through the 16th, but also starts 40 Days of Peace that will have another convergence that is on the 24th and 25th of February to round it out.
Thanks, Ingrid. Shiv, I've copied the chat line, all the chats, and
Okay.
sent it to you by email. If you want to send it to all the people that are there, so that in actual fact they can pick up
Yeah,
this website.
if you people leave your email addresses in the chat, that'll be good too. The chat will be saved. I'm saving it on the
Perfect.
on the cloud.
Thank you, Ingrid. I want to go to Yash and then Renew and then Kurt and then the troublemaker down in Arizona, John West. Yeah, but Yash, any comments?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm unmuted. Yeah. Yeah, my comments, see, I run into difficulty because my life experience has been, I would say, a little different than most of the people. Because I found the education process right from my childhood to be one way. Teacher is teaching me what he knows, and he never, I think in whole of my life, I came across only one teacher whom I had a feeling he understands me. So the end result was that I never did any homework, I never read any book, and I am totally uneducated. Okay, and now.
Well, don't say don't. Yash, don't say that. You are naturally educated. Naturally educated.
Oh, okay. I agree with. Okay, yeah. Actually, I was writing few notes. So my process of education was purely my life experience and meeting lot of educated people. Okay, and then I found most of the time. As I said earlier, that I left India 50, 60 years ago to figure out why we have been colonized. Okay, and now I have been around the world, really around the world, including Arctic Circle and the Antarctica and Mount Kailash in Tibet and so on. Okay, everywhere I see the basic. We spoke about that the life started from 4 billion years ago from Big Bang. Actually, I have drawn a graph just to make that point, that essentially in terms of DNA and so on, I have my own understanding. You see, since I've not read, so I don't know how it works internally. As far as I'm concerned, during the evolution process, individually, we developed a knowledge set within our brains, and during creation process, there is a male, there is a female, and at the point of birth, there is a third element, which I call consciousness. I don't understand what soul means in Bible. I tried to read Bible, but I could not understand a word. And same goes with all the Vedas. I tried to read, I could not understand a word, I gave up. So I developed my own definition. And there, so to answer Kurt's question, how those twins, okay, identical twins, one got colon and the other one not. There, my understanding is that happens because at the point of conception and birth, there are 3 elements. You have 2 DNAs from mother and father, and third one is consciousness. And to me, that word consciousness is God, most people kind of talk about. So this is an example of my own learning. So, and which is non-religious, totally. I don't understand where these religions grew and how, and why still people fight over religion. And they say, my religion is better than yours. Well, you can say that if you know what the heck religion is. I know the dictionary definition, but I don't understand it. I really don't follow. So like that, I think most of the answers on education can be answered by simple logic. So these are just my few comments.
Yes, I'm going to turn it back to Shiv, because the very reason for the Spiritual Heritage Education Network and the catalyst to that was the partition of India, of how many people died because they've got the right answer. Shiv, comment on Yash.
Well, I guess it's a huge problem. I mean, to discuss on these issues that he raises in in a decent way. It'll take a lot of time.
Okay.
I think we better spend this time that we got a few minutes to listen to John West and Renu.
And we'll finish off with you, Kurt.
We will.
Okay.
We're going to be
So-
getting together in many meetings and discussing
Anyway.
many issues. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yash, thank you, because we quite
Okay.
often think that you've got to have a whole bunch of letters beside your name to be knowledgeable. In actual fact,
Renu?
the thing you're fighting against is that the next vector, where's the real? And Renu, how are you?
I'm good.
Happy
How are
New
you?
Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to all as well.
Yeah.
I always just sign in to listen, not to speak. But actually, it's kind of interesting. I just opened a book yesterday, and I've only gotten about 10, 12 pages in, called The School of Life.
Mm-hmm.
And the first introduction, that's as far as I've gotten, is starting to talk about education. And it basically says, how our educational system is so focused on the sciences and anything that we can, it's focused on that, like sciences, math, anything to get you a job, but does not teach you how to regulate your emotions. So emotional intelligence. And I think what Dad's talking about in terms of the breath work and all of that is emotional intelligence. Like that's what leads to emotional intelligence, introspection. So it's just, I was just like kind of putting these dots together. And one of the other things that I thought was interesting in the book talks about the romantic period, romanticism, and how that came into play in the 1800s, and how we're still living in that period, which basically says that our emotions, what we feel is the truth, and not to really think about it, and it's just to go with your heart. And that is what has, I think, that viewpoint, that way of thinking is maybe what we need to get out of, and to use logic. Like the logic is required, and breathwork will lead you there.
Thank you, Renu. John West, and then I'll finish off with Kurt on comments.
I've certainly enjoyed this morning's gathering, and Shiv's knowledge and everyone's contributions. It's fascinating. I do have Shiv's new book in hand, and already I've just been fed immensely by Shiv's knowledge and passion. And I'm a grandfather. I've got 11 grandchildren, and my youngest is 12. And she's probably had the best opportunity in Flagstaff, Arizona, in her schooling so far, that in the early kindergarten, first, second grade, she was learning, they were teaching yoga and breathing, and now she's 12, and in this school they do get out of the box. They do allow the exploration of feelings and thoughts, and what do some better feedback. And I can tell just in her conversations, that young lady is spent a week with us before Christmas, and it was just fascinating to see this 12-year-old and her depth. And it's a lot of it is countered then by the distraction of the cell phone in the hand and all those distractions that go on. And yet a week later, she's ice climbing in Ouray, Colorado, and she has to be in that zone to be doing those things that her father is bringing her through and the teachers are bringing her through. And it's that balance is so important. And Shiv, your work and your dedication and your finding guidelines to help in education and educate people to do the contemplative learning. And you've helped me immensely since we've met. And I just thank everyone here. I appreciate you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. By the way, John just started teaching what I call deep breathing in Lake Havasu City. And it is so popular in the Western culture. And he had such a big class of one. One person showed up to learn free from him how to sit down and breathe deep consciously for a few minutes a day. One person. And that has to be corrected. The value of what John's offering to Lake Havasu City is not appreciated. And if he called it mindfulness, he'd probably get 20 people. And in the name of mindfulness, what you're dishing out is modern psychology that has landed us in the soup that we are. And I think that has to be addressed, Ingrid. We like complication. We like to make things much more complex than they really are. What I'm talking about is an essential part of yoga. Okay, yoga is so important that the United Nations are having World Yoga International Yoga Day, 21st of June every year, because of the scientific basis of it. It had the scientific basis much before modern science originated. Okay, and all we have to do is go back to it, go back to the essentials of yoga. And this is one of those essentials of yoga. To slow down the activity of the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system and to increase the activity of the parasympathetic. Slow down the frequencies of all the bodily actions of the core body. That transforms your mind. It is the body that transforms the mind, not the mind changing the body. We got things the wrong way up. If you look at one more thing, if you look at what's his name, Freud's metaphor of the mind. Mind has got a tip of the iceberg above the ocean. It's about 10-15% that is conscious. The rest is all unconscious and subconscious. And we are trying to change, we are trying to wag the dog by the tail by appealing to the conscious mind to do things this way and that way. It doesn't work. You have to deal with the unconscious to transform. Thank you.
Okay. Kurt, your comments, your insights?
Well, the beautiful
thoughts.
thing that I've learned, I started teaching in middle school. Actually, it was called a junior high in those days in East Los Angeles in 1969. And I've been from middle school to university. And bringing the heart to life. And when we bring that into the classroom and we listen and get people to do things that is their nature, not mine, because I had an artist in a class that was bored in history, but we were studying Spanish history with the Spanish school, and we got to be able to find out, well, this is my favorite artist. Would you draw a picture and find out about this great artist? His name is El Greco. And he, like many people in America, are from another country. And he came into Spain and he became a famous artist. Why was he so famous? What was it like in history at that time? What was going on to make him the way he was? And he got to find out about an artist, but I also asked him and I commissioned him to paint a photograph, which an art piece that El Greco had done. And I had it at my house forever until I went off to India for a year and then never saw it again. But that was another story. But the thing is, it's a holistic approach to life because nature is a system. When we want to go like this and say it's only the body, and it starts here, it starts everywhere. It is inclusive. That's why the peacemaker meditation is a body, mind, spirit, emotion technique. It is such an easy thing for anybody to do. Now, we can do all kinds of mindful training and call it mindfulness or call it yoga or call it pranayama or whatever. We could do the finger movement technique. And there's stuff that we can do. It's in my book with all kinds of things for body, mind, and spirit. The important thing is this. That's why we are here. It's not always coming from this intellectual gymnastics. Because like I mentioned to Yash, I play happily daily. That's my PhD. I keynoted the World Congress in Sports Psychology in 1985, started to do a program at USC. They wouldn't accept me into the program because of my undergraduate work. My master's was in education. I was going to get a PhD in sports psychology. They said, you're not qualified because of your undergraduate work. Well, I barely graduated because I skied, partied, and competed in swimming. And I also had to work there because it was a work study. So I got my education, but the education, like Shiv and Yaz and so many of it, we have more of an education outside of education than we do inside. So this is what we bring to life when we actually get to be able to educate. And I have a program at 11 o'clock today in Pacific time, it's 2 o'clock Eastern, about the peacemakers, how we can learn to be peacemakers when you have a difficult person to be able to talk to, or you are a great facilitator like Fred. He guides this facilitating this whole plethora of incredible people easily and sweetly. And it's a little bit more difficult when we have somebody really opposing, but we're all like-minded. I was looking for it, I haven't been able to find it to post it, but there's a technique for facilitating such issues and people. And by the time my program comes on, I will have found it and I'll be able to put it into the chat, so on, so everybody can benefit from it. Like, hopefully, the things that I did put in the chat are beneficial. You see, I'm an educator. I can't stop. Okay, thank you very much. Namaste. And
Shiv, back to you, my friend.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity of getting together and learning from each other. Thank you, Kurt, for sharing your thoughts, and John and Renu and Yash and Malcolm, and don't forget Fred.